Hello students, I am going to record a video lecture on the topic of agriculture law. Subtopic is with regard to the agriculture marketing and food safety, and in that light the significance of the functioning of Food Safety and Standards Act of India. So I shall analyze this enactment, its functioning, and first of all we shall try to know that why the Food Safety and Standards Act is important, what is its connectivity with right to food, and because right to food is very important with regard to the agricultural marketing and the agricultural practices which the farmers in India are following. And we shall also draw the connectivity of this enactment with the other agricultural laws and legislations, regulations which we have read. So let us now begin with the analysis of Food Safety and Standards Act of India. The Eat Healthy and Stay Healthy is the basic slogan of FSSAI, indicating at the fact that our health depends upon what we eat. Now there are various questions which are, for example, that why do we need FSSAI Act, and how does the unsafe food affect the consumers? What is the contribution of the FSSAI Act in the food safety mechanisms in India, and has the FSSAI Act made the food safety better? We shall also look at the different kinds of shortcomings of FSSAI Act and the areas and scopes for its improvement, because this is a very important legislation and it is also directly connected with the farming operations, the production of agricultural produce, the quality of agricultural produce, the marketing of agricultural produce, and the marketing of other commodities which can be categorized as agri-based industries. So there are various steps in which we shall be covering this topic. The FSSAI Act 2006 is playing a very important role for implementing the WHO objectives, and the World Health Organization report had revealed various facts that the unsafe food contains various harmful bacteria, viruses, and parasites and other chemical substances which are very harmful for the human health and which is related to the death of various people in the different areas of the globe. And that is why we need to frame a legislation to take care of the safe food availability. Apart from that, there is multiplicity of legislations. In India also, there are multi-level laws, there are multi-departmental control over the food production, over the food procurement, and there is no single reference point in the matters of food safety and standards. The regulatory regime must be also converted into self-compliance, and we need to improve the procedure of licensing, the registration of the different kind of people who are engaged in procurement of food. Right to food, as explained by the United Nations, it is declared as a right in 1948 in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and it was recognized in Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. There are different components of right to food which are leading to the significance of the agriculture and agricultural operations, which actually are the source of the food, and these are the 5 components of right to food: availability, adequacy, accessibility, sustainability, and non-discrimination in distribution of the food. Now, in the Constitution of India also, we know that under Part 3 of the Constitution, the fundamental rights are provided, and the right to food is considered to be a derivative of Article 21, right to life, and along with that, Part 4 of the Constitution of India, which deal with the directive principles of state policy. At Article 47, under Part 4, the directive principles of a state policy which are enshrined in our Constitution. It reads, Article 47 reads as the state shall regard the raising of the level of nutrition and the standard of living of its people and the improvement of public health. So this is one of the reasons why we have framed FSSAI. The Food Safety and Standards Act was enacted by the Government of India on 24th of August 2006, and the implementation and enforcement was brought into reality on 5th of September 2008, and the basic nodal department is Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, which is the administrative ministry for the implementation of FSSAI. FSSAI lays down the science-based standards, the scientific standards for the articles of food and to regulate their manufacture or production of the food, which include production of the fruits and other crops. It is about the storage of the food, the distribution of the food. It also is related to the sale of the food and the import of the food items, and it is the purpose of FSSAI is to ensure the availability of safe and wholesome food for human consumption. That is the objective of the FSSAI Act. The FSSAI Act provides a single point access to all the laws, and the departmental controls are provided. The FSSAI Act is a single reference point for all the matters related to food safety and standards, regulations and enforcement, and it is leading to high degree of consumer confidence in availability of the food equally and with regard to the safety of food, and it also is attempting to provide a single licensing authority with regard to the articles of food. Uh, it is also resulting into the consolidation of laws and leading to a single line of command. There are various legislations which are related to the agricultural produce, the food items, which are now converted into the regulations under the enactment. And for example, the milk control order is now considered to be a regulation under the FSSAI Act. Now, on Section 97 of this enactment is specifically about the repeal of the laws, and the different kinds of laws which are enlisted in the second schedule stand repealed by framing of this enactment. The mark is needed under this enactment. The agricultural marketing, the enactment, Agricultural Produce Grading and Marketing Act 1935 talks about provide for agmark, which is needed under this enactment. Apart from that, the Bureau of Indian Standards Act 2016 is about the standardization, marketing and quality certification of the food items. Now, as I have just explained, that with the enactment of the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006, the Government of India has created a special authority, Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, which is the single reference point to deal with all the matters related to food safety and standards. The various legislations, as I just referred, are standing repealed, and these legislations play a very important role in agricultural marketing. The Section 97 of the enactment provide that the legislations which are specified in the second schedule stand repeal by the force of Section 97. So these laws are Prevention of Food Adulteration Act 1954, the Fruit Products Order 1955, that also stand repealed, the Meat Food Products Order 1973 stand repealed, the Vegetable Oil Products Control Order 1947 stand repealed, the Edible Oils Packaging within bracket Regulation Order 1998 stand repealed. The solvent extracted oil, de-oiled meal and edible flour control order 1967 stand repealed, and the milk and milk products order 1992 stand repealed, and any other order which is issued under the Essential Commodities Act 1955 relating to food also stand repealed by the force of section 97, because these are the laws which stand repeal, which are provided in the second schedule to the Food Safety and Standards Act of India. Now, it is not so that there is vacuum in those areas which were earlier regulating these areas of agricultural law and agricultural marketing. There are different regulations framed under this enactment to fill in the gap which is created by these different sets of orders and laws to provide a single platform and a single source of law. So consolidation has happened. Now this enactment gives the definition of food, and which is a very vast definition of food, and which says that anything, any substance which is whether processed or which is partially processed, or it could be unprocessed raw food item which is intended for human consumption, and it is also including primary food. So this primary food is actually the area which is very much important for us, because primary food is the agricultural produce. So this could include the fruits, the grains, etc. So the definition of food is covering the including the primary food, the genetically modified or engineered food, or food containing such ingredients, processed one like infant food, packaged drinking water, alcoholic drinks, chewing gum, and other substances. It includes the water which is used into the food during the manufacture, the treatment or preparation of these things is included, but it does not include any animal feed. Live animals are not included. So this is how the detailing of the description of the food is done under this enactment. And primary food is also explained, that the primary food means an article of food which is being a produce of agriculture or horticulture or animal husbandry and dairying or aquaculture in its natural form, and resulting from the growing or raising or cultivation or picking, harvesting, collection or catching in hands of person other than a farmer or fisherman, then collection, catching, etc. are also included. So these are the primary food items which are the produce of agriculture or horticulture or animal husbandry, including dairying or aquaculture in its natural form. So these are to be safely produced and consumed. So food safety is also explained in this enactment, and food safety means a kind of assurance. Food safety includes a kind of assurance that the food is acceptable for human consumption, that the food is acceptable for human consumption according to the intended use, and the standard in relation to any article of food means the standards notified by the food authority. Now this is very important to all the consumers and business operators which are engaged in the production of food or the processing or distribution of food or sale of the food items. The establishment of authority is done under this enactment. Under section 4, the establishment of food safety and standards authority is provided in this enactment, and if we look at its composition, that is provided in section 5, that it shall be comprising of a chairperson and about 22 members will be there, including the 7 members which are not below the rank of joint secretary to the government of India, and they are to be appointed by the central government. And there are representatives of different departments like agriculture. The representatives from agriculture department are there, the commerce department representatives are there, people dealing with consumer affairs, food processing, health, legislative affairs, small scale industries, etc., are also there in the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. The composition is elaborated in the further slides. As you can see that there are representatives from the consumer organizations, small scale industries, eminent food technologists or scientists also have a role to play, and most importantly, two persons to represent the farmers organizations must be there. So there is a requirement for representation of farmers also. Now the appointment is provided under section 6 of the enactment, that how the chairpersons and CEO in the food authority would be appointed. It is about selection committee is provided under section 6, and the central advisory committee is they are provided in section 11 of the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006. That is a very important institution to ensure coordination between the food authority and the enforcement agencies, and section 12 explains the function of the Central Advisory Committee, which is provided under section 11. So the Central Advisory Committee consists of two members, each from the different fields as representative of that field, and it also includes the member not only from the food industry but also from the agriculture sector. It has inclusion of the people from the agricultural sector. And section 13 of the FSSAI Act provide about scientific panels, scientific experts, which are to research and which are to decide what kind of processing aids can be used in the food, what kind of food additives can be added, what kind of pesticides and antibiotics can be used, and they also decide standards with regard to the genetically modified organisms and food. Thus, they play a very important role in regulating the agricultural business in India and the agricultural marketing also, and also takes care of the interest of the consumers. The scientific panels also include the people who are having expertise in assessing the biological hazards, the contamination of the food, labeling, sampling, and the food authority time to time reconstitute the scientific panels, and it adds on new members to it so that better inputs could be achieved by the authority. And there are scientific committees also which are provided in the enactment. The food authority shall constitute scientific committees which shall be having various scientific panels of comprising of the scientists, and they are responsible for providing scientific opinions to the food authority, and they also have provisions to conduct the public hearing, and they are very important to provide the coordination which is necessary to ensure the consistency of scientific opinion procedure with regard to the working and harmonization of the methods of the scientific activities and panels. The scientific committee provide opinion on multi-sectoral issues, and they also set up the different working groups. The Food Safety and Standards Authority of India frames regulations to lay down the standards, and it lays down the guidelines with regard to the articles of food, and it is specified appropriate systems also that how those standards shall be enforced, and these standards are notified and they are operative as law. The FSSAI also lays down the mechanisms and guidelines for the certification of the food items, their management, the guidelines for establishment of laboratories, for scientific advice, the farming, the different kinds of policies, etc., which are made by the governments central governments and state government, technical support is provided with the help of FSSAI. So it is involved in research, it is involved in information and training, it is involving in collection of data, and it is also assessing the biological risk which is involved through contaminants which are added in the food, and the preservatives also. So thus, various important aspects are covered within the functioning of FSSAI. FSSAI also talks about a network of the institutions for food safety, and thus FSSAI also is responsible for creating a network across the country between the public as a whole in the capacity of consumers, then the panchayats, the municipal bodies, and this network is very helpful in procuring appropriate and safe food to the people in India. It is also helpful in promoting the agribusiness, agricultural dependent industry, and other people who are involved in the food business. The contribution of SI is also to develop the international technical standards for the food, the sanitary and phytosanitary standards. It promotes the general awareness about food safety and standards. There are various institutions for enforcement created by FSI, like Central Licensing Authority, State Licensing Authority, the registering authorities like Panchayati Raj and municipalities, those are identified, and these are responsible for the enforcement. Licenses are given. It covers the different kinds of health foods, food supplements also, which are product of the agricultural based industry. And this is providing a single reference point in all those matters which are relating to food safety, including the matters of grading, including the matters of misbranding, including the matters of adulteration. And so it is a shift to a single command from multi-departmental level, from multi-departmental control to a single line of command. This shift is ensured by the functioning of FSI, because all of these enforcement systems of FSI, they are under a single institution following a single line of action. Various achievements are noted by FSI with regard to the food safety. The food safety is compliance mechanisms are observed. It is complied with. The domestic food control is observed. The digitalization of the records is done. The inspections are properly done, and the manufacturing standards are also met. So, in regulation of the food business is taking place with the help of the compliance machinery which is developed under FSI. So, whole area of domestic food control is covered. Apart from that, the food import control also takes place. Apart from the domestic control, the importing is also controlled, and various entry points are framed which undertake the risk-based inspections. Samples are taken, testing is done, NOC is provided, and single window clearance for imports to facilitate ease of doing business is done. And in this way, the surveillance of imported food in the market is also done by FSI. Apart from that, the training and capacity building of the different officials, resource persons, scientists, agriculturists is also done by the initiatives taken by FSI. The FSI Safe and Nutritious Food at School initiative is in a manner increasing awareness of the people. It is made an important part of a school curriculum to make children vigilant about food safety and standards. The concept of mega food park is also developed to ensure adherence to food safety standards. so that the gap between the farm and the market could be bridged down. The FSSAI has framed some regulations for organic food production also, which is making it mandatory for the domestic producers to certify their food as organic food, either from the National Program for Organic Production or through other institutions which are specified by FSSAI. Because the demand for organic food is increasing day by day, and sometimes people are also befooled, and it is not certified. In most of the cases, the food which is sold as organic food, the agricultural produce which is sold as organic food, is the not organic actually. So that is why the certification of organic food is also done, which is a very important step in agricultural marketing, and which is consumer friendly move taken by FSI. And this certification is trying to outrule the possibility of the fake uh, organic food in the market. And along with that, the Ministry of Food and Public Distribution has recommended for distribution of fortified wheat flour in the states. So fortification of the wheat grains is taking place, and the provision is made for the under the Right to Food Act for the public distribution system, which is also functioning with the help of FSI. And there are various regulations now made under FSI, which are which are implemented for the safety of the food. In 2011, various regulations were framed. So in this manner, we may say that the Food Safety and Standards Act is a very important enactment, and the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India is a very important, significant, science-based organization, which is very important to provide sufficient and safe food to the people, and wholesome food is provided for human consumption by the Food Safety and Standards Authority. And there is a need to equip this authority with more better trained people with technical expertise. More bureaucratic support should be given, more money should be allocated in the budget for the functioning of FSI, the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. And the people from the scientific background, technological background must be increased in it. It should not be dominated by the bureaucracy. Rather, it should give sufficient place to the agriculturists, technologists, scientists, and other food science professionals. And scientific panel should also have very experienced member from the industrial background also. The raising of budget is also important for the functioning of such institutions. Definitely it involves budget because it is involving researches also. There are, in some cases, underperformance is also observed in the functioning of FSI. Sometimes it is lacking the action plan for a long time, and bad monitoring of the policies of the regulations which are made. Once the license is given, it is not very promptly observed whether the conditions of the license are followed or not, and thus it is sometimes not cancelled in proper time. So bad monitoring is also one lacuna in the functioning of SI. There are some kind of procedural failures also, which are observed in the non-framing of the regulations or non-publications of the notifications. There are sometimes faults observed in the granting of licenses, and the digitalization is also not properly done. The databases are not sometimes properly maintained. Infrastructural deficiencies are also observed in the functioning of the FSI, and the delays are also there with regard to the appointment of the officials or grant of the licenses. And in certain areas there is absence of regulations also. So they have to be more vigilant about framing of the regulations in those areas which are remaining unattended. So they need to make time to time regulations are to be made, and the made regulations, already existing regulations, are also to be amended by the Food Safety and Standard Authority of India time to time. There are some food items which are unattended by FSSAI Act, which must be covered within the sweep, like unpackaged potable water is one of the item, like the ice is one of the item. So monitoring is to be improved, and genetically modified food is to be more emphasized. The genetically modified food imports require approval under the Environment Protection Act of 1986 and the Food Safety and Standards Act of 2006. The formulation of regulation to that effect and the importing of the food must provide for a mandatory declaration at the level mentioning that this kind of food is free, is genetically modified free, and it is not having any genetic modification. Some countries are doing this. India can also be more cautious with regard to the food which is imported, and it has to, the FSI has to make further detailed regulation with regard to ice, with regard to the artificial ripening of the fruits, because usually harmful chemicals are used by the horticulturists to artificially ripe the food, like calcium carbide or formalin, which are hazardous. So these are some areas where the regulations are needed and which are not made till now. Similarly, the street food also has to be better regulated, and the mechanism to train to produce safe street food must be developed by the initiative of this authority. And some of the different kinds of marks with regard to the standardization are available in India, which must be merged. Like that is true that various laws are consolidated under the FSSAI Act, but still some mechanisms are parallelly prevailing, like the BIS and AgMark standards. They can be merged together so that there will not be multiple marks of food labeling existing in India. And it must also regulate and control the advertising of the food items. It must monitor the advertisement of food items, and misleading items must be stopped, and complaints must be taken up against the misleading advertisements. And the computerization of the records and the data of the authority must be done. The local beverages which are available open in the market should also be controlled, and the standards of alcoholic content in the traditional beverages must also be controlled by FSI. So this is all about the functioning of FSI and the role of the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India in the agricultural production, agricultural marketing, food rights. We have seen, I hope, that by the end of this lecture, all of you are in a position to give answers of few questions. For example, what is the role of Food Safety and Standards Authority of India in the agricultural marketing? How the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India plays its role in providing safe food to the people? What are the shortcomings and what are the success points of the FSSAI Act? You should be in a position to criticize the FSSAI Act with the help of the different kinds of analysis which we have undertaken in today's lecture. Thank you so much for being with me in this lecture. Thanks a lot.